Morning, Mayor Robinson. We are good to go.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the West Grey Council public meeting. Today's date is December 6, 2021. On the call to order, I can identify that all members of council are present, with the exception to Councillor Beth Hamilton, who is regrets. We have a quorum for today's meeting. Corporate and Community Initiatives Officer, Cody Hewlett, could you please go through the features of today's electronic meeting?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Before I begin, if at any point you get disconnected, you can dial 1-647-558-0588 and enter the meeting ID for this meeting, which is 893-1694-9515. Both members of council and staff have been briefed on the various features of the Zoom meeting software and will be raising their hands physically on camera to speak. It should be noted for members of the public that for public participation in this meeting, it must be done through the Zoom meeting software and cannot be done through the live stream on YouTube at this time, as the meeting is being held in two places. For members of the public, if you require any technical assistance throughout the duration of the meeting, you can send a chat message to myself, Cody Hewlett, Corporate and Community Initiatives Officer, and I will attempt to assist you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On to item number 2, declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Members of council, at this time, is there anything to declare? Seeing none, we are now on to item 3, purpose of the meeting. Clerk Sharbeck, could you please identify what the purpose is?
Through you, Mayor. The purpose of this public meeting of the Municipality of West Grey Council is to review applications for proposed amendments to West Grey zoning bylaw number 37-2006, and to allow interested members of the public the opportunity to ask questions or offer comments with regard to the applications. Council will not make a decision on the applications at this public meeting. Based on the recommendations and information received at the public meeting, amending bylaws may be presented for approval at a regular council meeting. There is a public registry located online with Mr. Cody Hewlett, and if any member of the public would like to be notified in writing of the decision on the applications, they're to provide their name and mailing address to Mr. Hewlett via email at khewlett@westgrey.com or telephone for the registry. A person or public body may appeal the decision if they've made an oral submission at this public meeting or a written submission to council prior to the passing of the bylaw. The Ontario Land Tribunal may or may not consider an appeal from a person or public body if they've not made an oral submission at this public meeting or a written submission to council prior to the passing of the bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 4, ZA 23.2021, in brackets, David and Angela Ringrose, end of bracket, 523448, concession 12, lot 1, concession 12, registered plan 3723-2-0132, part east 1/2, township of Glenelg. 4.1, application for zoning amendment. 4.2, planner L. Spencer report. Clerk Sharbeck, to the recommendation, please.
Through you, Mayor, the recommendation is the council receive Planner Spencer's report regarding ZA 23-2021, consider the comments received, and consider a bylaw at a subsequent meeting of council.
I'll be looking for a mover and seconder. We'll receive Planner Spencer's report, questions from members of council, and then I'll call the vote. Is there a mover for this motion, Deputy Mayor? Is there a seconder for this motion, Councillor Hergert? Thank you. Good morning, Planner Spencer. We are looking forward to your presentation now.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. So, as previously stated by the clerk, the recommendation is for the receipt of this report and to consider the comments received and forward the bylaw at a subsequent council meeting for consideration by council at that time. The applicant has requested the construction of a second detached dwelling unit on the property. At this moment in time, property is not permitted to have a second dwelling unit, although council needs to have the understanding that through our zoning bylaw review process, we will be reviewing that in future on a broader basis. The purpose of this application is to change the zone symbol on the subject lands from A2 rural and natural environment NE to A2 rural with an exception of 441 and NE. The effect of the application will permit the placement of a second detached dwelling unit on the lot, subject to specific exceptions. Schedule A of the attached bylaw, which will be forwarded in front of council at a subsequent council meeting. Comments have been received from the County of Grey in support of the application, in addition to comments received from the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. The Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority comments have requested deferral of the application. However, staff are of the opinion that the application is acceptable, as the second detached dwelling unit would be located within an existing residential cluster on the subject lands, which does not involve the removal of lands from agricultural uses or significant tree removal as a result. Therefore, staff have recommended that the bylaw be considered for first, second, and third reading of council at a subsequent meeting. No comments from the public have been received at this point in time relative to the application. I'm happy to provide for further clarification for council at their request. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Planner Spencer. Are there any questions from members of council? Councillor Townsend.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to the planner. Two things really. One was the buildings, both of them will be using the same, what appears to be using the same water facilities, and I wasn't sure whether we know there's capacity for that, or will that be done when they actually handle the application for development?
Planner Spencer.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. That is something that is dealt with at the building permit stage. So the capacity of the existing private services with respect to well and septic will be assessed at that point in time. If a second septic system is required, then that will be something that's assessed by the chief building official at the time of building permit issuance.
Thank you for that answer. My second question had to do with the fact that the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority did have a deferral. They did refute most of the issues through their report, but I was wondering why you feel there is not an EIS required, environmental investment study required.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, if I may. An environmental impact study is of the opinion of planning staff that it is not required, mostly with a result of the location of the building being within the existing residential cluster. The disturbance on that property has already been perceived, and in my opinion, as a professional, that an environmental impact study would be onerous at this point in time and not required.
Okay, thank you very much. That was all my questions, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I think my question has been answered. Just that there was a lot of reference to environmental impact study, and I think our planners explained that. So thank you.
All right, very good. Any further questions? Seeing none. Does anyone need the motion read again? Then all those in favor indicate with a raised hand. Councillor Shea, would you be able to be on screen or present it in verbal?
And I'm in favor.
Thank you. 1, 2. 6 members of council have voted in favor. The motion is carried. On to 4.3, written comments received. I'm going to put these two together. 4.3.1, Grey County, and 4.3.2, Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. Planner Spencer, do you have anything more to add with regard to those comments that I've just identified? And secondly, have you received any additional comments?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. No additional written comments have been received from the public, and beyond the comments reiterated as part of my summation, there is no further comment with respect to the county, the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority.
Okay, and over to you, Clerk Scharbeck. Have you received any comments up until the time of this meeting?
Through Mayor, no further written comments have been received.
Thank you. 4.4, verbal comments. 4.4.1, council members. Is there any member of council that wishes to make a comment? All right. 4.4.2, public members. Corporate and Community Initiatives Officer Hewlett, are you able to identify if there's any member of the public that wishes to speak to this item?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. As mentioned previously in the meeting, public participation must be at this point must be done through the Zoom meeting software and cannot be done through the live stream on YouTube at this time. Members of the public wishing to participate at this portion of the meeting can do so in one of two ways. First being, if you have joined us via phone line, you can press *9 to raise your hand. Alternatively, if your hand has been raised in error, you can press *9 again to lower it. The second option, if you have joined us using the online meeting software, you can either send a chat message to myself, Cody Hewlett, Corporate and Community Initiatives Officer, either stating that you would like to speak or what you would like read for the record on your behalf, or you can raise your hand, typically located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, usually by a either blue or yellow hand icon. At this time, Mayor Robinson, just taking a quick review of the dashboard as well as my chat. I am not seeing any members of the public wishing to participate at this time, nor have I received any correspondence.
All right, well, thank you. Item 4.5, next steps. Clerk Scharbeck, could you provide what those steps are?
Thank you, Mayor. The next steps is for bylaw to be forwarded to a regular council meeting, and council will consider that bylaw. There is a 20-day appeal period, after which the applicants will be notified if there's no appeals that they may proceed.
Item 5, ZA 24.2021 in brackets Merle and Florence Brubacher and bracket 270 and 278 Garifraxis Street South, Plan 500, Part Lot 2 WGR, Queen Street, or Queen, E/S, Town of Durham. 5.1, application for zoning amendment. 5.2, Planner L. Spencer report. Clerk Scharbeck to the recommendation.
Through you, Mayor, the application is, the recommendation is that council receive Planner Spencer's report regarding application ZA 24-2021, consider the comments received, and forward a bylaw for consideration by council at a subsequent meeting of council.
Is there a mover for this? Councillor Townsend. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hutchinson. Planner Spencer, for your report, please.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The recommendation again is that council receive the report regarding application ZA 24-2021 and consider the comments received for the bylaw to be considered at first, second, and third reading at a subsequent council meeting. The subject lands are municipally identified as 278 and 280 Garifraxis Street South in Durham. I just want to make a note that in the agenda, and it's probably just a grammatical error on my part, it was noted as 270 and 278 Garifraxis Street, but it is definitely 278 and 280 Garifraxis Street. The purpose of this application is to change the zone symbol on the subject plans from R1B residential and MU1 mixed use to R1B residential and MU1 with an exception of 442 mixed use, the effect of which recognizes the deficient lot frontage, front yard setback, and interior side yard setback referenced in Schedule A to the zoning bylaw, which will be considered by council at a later date. Provisional consent approval was granted by the Committee of Adjustment on August 9th of 2021 for file B19 2021. So the purpose of that application at that time was to sever an existing semi-detached dwelling unit of 0.06 hectares in size and retain a 0.08 hectare property in size, the effect of which created two separate residential parcels. Provisional consent did require some conditions, which are integral to recognizing components of this application before council at this time. The payment of any outstanding municipal taxes, payment of the parkland dedication fee, payment of the zoning bylaw amendment application fee, which has been completed, and passage of the zoning bylaw amendment, which is subject to this meeting at this point in time. Planning staff have no concerns with respect to the subsequent implementation of this zoning bylaw to satisfy a condition of consent. And planning staff have no concerns with respect to the comments provided from the County of Grey and the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority relative to the application. Planning staff recommends that it be considered at a first, second, and third reading at a subsequent council meeting at that time. Any further questions and clarification are happily provided. Thank you.
Thank you. So before I ask if there are any questions of members of council, I'm going to correctly read the item number, which is item 5 ZA 24.2021, Merle and Florence Brubacher. 278 and 280 Garifraxis Street South, Plan 500, Part Lot 2, WGR, Queen, E/S, Town of Durham. Thank you for your indulgence on that. Members of council, are there any questions? Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, so maybe our planner, you maybe sort of explained this, but I'd just like to maybe explain it to me again. I'm just curious why that this would have to go through twice. Like I know once was the separation of the two apartments. Now we're doing the lot size. So is that possible that could have been done at once, or was there some reason that it had to be done twice?
If I may, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Through you, clarification is that consents, also known as a severance, is dealt with through Committee of Adjustment and not through Council. And that's an organization that's separate from consideration of the zoning amendment. So once those lots are created, there are some deficiencies from a zoning perspective. So it does involve two separate applications to complete the process.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, members of council? Councillor Hergert.
Just for clarity, a question to the planner. We are not requiring an EIS, environmental impact, on this?
If I may, through you, Madam
Yes.
Mayor, no environmental impact study is required. This is existing development of a semi-detached property. There really is no physical land change happening at this point in time. It's simply a legality through the Land Registry Office to create two separate lots.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Any other questions, members of council? Then to the motion, all those in favor indicate with a raised hand. Councillor Shea, how do you vote?
Councillor Shea, in favor?
6 members of council have voted in favor. The motion is carried. 5.3 written comments received. I'm going to identify all of them at once here. 5.3.1 Grey County, 5.3.2 Enbridge Gas Inc., 5.3.3 Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, and 5.3.4 Hydro One. Planner Spencer, could you please speak to any of these in addition, and if there's any further comments that you have received?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. At this point in time, no verbal comments from the public have been received, and no concerns have been identified by any authorities having jurisdiction and commenting on the application. Again, the recommendation for approval at a subsequent council meeting stands. Thank you.
Clerk Sharbeck, have you received any additional correspondence?
To you, Mayor. We have follow-up from Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, just restating that they find this application acceptable and they have no concerns.
Thank you. 5.4 verbal comments. 5.4.1 council members. Members of council, are there any comments? 5.4.2 public members. Initiatives Officer Cody Hewlett, could you please assist with this portion of the meeting?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Again, as mentioned previously in the meeting, public participation must be done through the Zoom meeting software and cannot be done through YouTube at this time. Members of the public wishing to participate in this portion of the meeting may do so in one of two ways. The first being, if you have joined us via phone line, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and that will let us know you would like to speak. Alternatively, if your hand has been raised in error, you can press *9 again to lower your hand. The second option for members of the public who have joined us using the Zoom meeting software, you can either send a chat message to myself, Cody Hewlett, Corporate and Community Initiatives Officer, either stating that you would like to speak or what you would like read on your behalf for the record. Alternatively, you can also raise your hand, usually located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, either by a yellow or blue hand icon. Just taking a quick review of the dashboard as well as my chat at this time, Mayor Robinson. I am not seeing any members of the public wishing to speak, nor have I received any correspondence.
Okay, thank you. 5.5 next steps. Clerk Sharbeck, could you please identify what the next steps are?
To you, Mayor Robinson. As Planner Spencer has stated, the next steps will be to forward a bylaw for council's consideration at a subsequent meeting of council. If the bylaw is passed by council, there is a 20-day appeal period, after which time, if there are no appeals, then the applicants will be advised that 2 of the conditions, the payment for the zoning application and the zoning amendment of their provisional consent approval, will have been fulfilled.
Thank you. Item number 6, ZA 27.2021 in brackets, Heather Jean Burgess, end of bracket, 422910 Side Road 15, Lot 15, Concession 1, Township of Bentic. 6.1, application for zoning amendment. 6.2, Planner L. Spencer report. Clerk Scharbeck to the recommendation.
Through you, Mayor, the recommendation is that council receive Planner Spencer's report regarding application ZA 27-2021, consider the comments received, and forward the bylaw to council for consideration at a subsequent council meeting.
Is there a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor, is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hergert? Planner Spencer, your report, please.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. The recommendation again is the council receive this report regarding applications at 8/27/2021. Consider the comments received and have consideration by council for the bylaw for first, second, and third reading at a subsequent meeting. The applicant has requested the construction of a second detached dwelling unit on the subject lands. The property is municipally identified as 422910 Side Road 15, west of the Garifax Road, and legally identified as Lot 15, Concession 1 in the geographic township of Bentic. Similar to the application previously heard at the beginning of this meeting, this is for a second detached dwelling unit, which will be under consideration in terms of the zoning bylaw overall for the entire municipality at a future date. The lands are designated rural and hazard lands under the county official plan, and the current zoning of the property is A2, rural, and NE, natural environment. The proposed location of the second detached dwelling unit is entirely within the A2 rural zone and within the existing residential cluster of development on the subject lands. The location of the potential property here in this particular circumstance for development is about 100 meters from Highway 6 and plus or minus 15.2 meters from the exterior lot line located along 15th Side Road west of Garifax Road. The applicant has indicated that a second entrance to the dwelling unit is preferred. Staff have received comments from the County of Grey and the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. The County of Grey is supportive of the application, and the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority has asked that we ensure that the development is contained entirely within the A2 rural zone and outside of the hazard areas, plus the 30-meter setback from identified wetlands on the property. Staff are satisfied that the application should be considered by council at a future date and have no further concerns at this point in time, but happy to provide clarification as required. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Members of council, are there any questions? Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Again, I'm wondering about the second entrance, whether or not that becomes a condition of approval. If Madam Planner, you could respond to that.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. This is a zoning bylaw amendment, so conditions are not attached to the zoning amendment itself at this point in time. Their ability to obtain an entrance will be subject to the road superintendent and their ability to obtain clear and safe ingress and egress of the property. Staff are not concerned, having conducted a site visit, that this will be an issue, and the location of which will be established through our own public works standards and through the road superintendent, and is not necessarily needed to be addressed as part of the zoning at this point in time.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. That was my only question.
Very good. Councillor Hutchinson then.
Yeah, I'm just curious. In our package, we don't seem to have a diagram to show the placement of the secondary dwelling. So I'm sort of curious, are they sharing water sewers, or would this resident be on their own system?
If I may, through you, Madam Mayor, as similar to the first application heard this morning, so the ability for the existing system will be assessed as part of the building permit application and the capacity of that system. If additions to that existing system are required, or the ability for them to have separate services are required, that's something that's addressed through the building permit stage. That will be evaluated by the chief building official.
Okay, and just one further question. So obviously the county and province is encouraging this type of thing. So the understanding is that when they build a second dwelling, that it remains as one parcel, rather than down the road they come to us and say, well, I have a separate driveway and I have separate water and sewer hookup to this residence. So now I'd like to sever this parcel into 2 chunks. Is that an issue, or how does that work?
If I may, through you, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
that would be evaluated on the merits of an application for severance based on the policies of the county plan at the time that potential application could come forward. At this point in time, it is not intended that that will be an ability for this particular property to have, because the density of that property has already been exceeded in terms of severances from the original Crown survey.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, members of council? Seeing, Councillor Hergert then?
I do have one question. This is more the general, we'll take up secondary dwellings. When do you foresee that we would be getting to those, to the zoning bylaw and official plan and so on?
For this particular application?
This is more the generality of the second dwellings. This one is within an accessory structure. The other one appeared to be a house addition. But the more general of when will we take this up in West Grey? This is a provincial,
Councillor Hergert, we'll have a response from staff through an email or an update. But we're dealing specifically with this application. Appreciate your question. We'll just stay focused on that. Any other questions with regard to the application at hand only? Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Just one further comment. I don't see any report from Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. Does that mean that it wasn't necessary for them to report on this one?
Planner Spencer?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Comments were received.
Planner Spencer, FYI, you are now on mute.
My
No worries.
apologies. So comments were received in support of the application from the Conservation Authority, but they were received after the agenda had been published. But their comments are in favor and support of the application.
Okay, thank you.
All right, then, members of council, anything further? All those in favor of the motion at hand, please raise your hand. Councillor Shea, how do you vote?
Shea, in favor?
6 members of council have voted in favor. The motion is carried. 6.3 written comments. Is there anything further on this particular section, Planner Spencer? Have you received any additional comments?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. No additional comments, written or verbal, have been received on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Sharbeck, have you received any additional comments?
Through you, Mayor, no additional comments other than from the county and Saugeen Valley that Planner Spencer has already addressed.
Thank you. 6.4 verbal comments. 6.4.1 council members. Any comments, council members? 6.4.2 public members. Corporate and Community Initiatives Officer Hewlett, could you please assist at this time?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. As mentioned previously, the public participation must be done through the Zoom software and cannot be done through YouTube at this time. Members of the public wishing to participate in this portion of the meeting may do so in one of 2 ways. The first being, if you have joined us via phone line, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and that will let us know you would like to speak. Alternatively, if your hand has been raised in error, you can press *9 again to lower your hand. The second option for members of the public who have joined us using the online meeting software, you can either send a chat message to myself, Cody Hewlett, Corporate and Community Initiatives Officer, either stating that you would like to speak or what you would like read into the record on your behalf. Alternatively, you can also raise your hand, typically located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen by either a blue or yellow hand icon. Just taking a quick review of the dashboard and chat, Mayor Robinson, I'm not seeing any members of the public wishing to participate at this time, nor have I received any correspondence.
Okay then, thank you. 6.5, next steps. Clerk Sharbeck, could you please identify what those are?
Through you, Mayor, the next steps in this process is to forward a bylaw for consideration by council at a future council meeting. If the bylaw is passed, there will be a 20-day appeal period, after which time, if no appeals are received, the applicant will be notified and they'll be able to proceed with their building permit.
Thank you. Item number 7, closed public meeting. Clerk Sharbeck to the recommendation.
Through you, Mayor, the recommendation is that council hereby closes this public meeting at 9:38 a.m.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Hergert, is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hutchinson. All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 5. Councillor Shea, how do you vote?
Shay in favor.
6 members of council have voted in favor. The motion is carried. We do stand adjourned. Everyone, please have a wonderful day. Thank you.